Hello, this is Laura Robinson at the Chattanooga Area Food Bank, and I am going to give you an overview of how I start seeds in the greenhouse. Now, I should start out by saying there are a million different ways. If you look this up online, you can find a different set of information from pretty much anyone you come across. But I'm just going to share with you the best way that I found to do it here. So let me just go ahead and get started. So the first thing you'll need is some sort of growing medium. And I use this bag of Pro Mix, which I get from Ace Hardware. It's quite heavy, so you might need help actually transporting it into the greenhouse. I usually have someone put it in my trunk, and then I get a wheelbarrow and kind of just dump it in here. It is, as of right now, about $55 for one of these bags. So it's not cheap, but it seems to do a decent job. I don't add any kind of other amendments to this soil, but you could probably add various things. It seems to do a good job kind of on its own though. So you can see here that I have a large bin, which I take the soil, the Pro Mix, put it in this bin, and then I have an overhead hose that I use, but you could use a watering can. And you want to get the soil to a consistency that it will hold its shape somewhat when it is squeezed, but you can see it's not dripping water. So there is kind of a happy medium there. So you just want to make sure as you're getting this soil moistened, you kind of have to mix it back and forth quite a few times. So it's kind of a process. It takes a few minutes to kind of get it to the right consistency. So I'm going to show you here kind of the first stage that I use when I'm starting seeds. So this is a self-watering system, and I'll kind of show you how it's all set up in the end. But to start with, this is like a system. I think I got this off of Amazon. But you can see there's this tray that does not have any holes in the bottom. That's important for this setup. And then there are various small trays. Sometimes there's like just two sections. But they fit in here snugly, and I think there are 72 cells. Is that right? 6. Okay, I'm not going to do the math right now. But anyway, there are a lot of cells in here, as you can see. And I already filled this one up with soil, but I did want to show you, and I'm trying to do this with one hand while I'm holding the phone, how I do this, because I do think this is important to kind of know how much to tamp this down. So as you can see, I'm just kind of like lightly filling it in. And you don't want this to be super compacted, but you also want to make sure you're taking care of some of the air pockets that are in there. So I just do kind of a light, I just put the soil in there lightly, and then I go back through and I tamp it down gently with my fingers like that. So you can see there's indentations. And then I go back again kind of lightly and just smooth it out. So that should set you up well to start your seeds. Now you will want to look, let's say we wanted to start spinach. I have a package here. You just look on the back and see what depth it suggests planting. So this one says a 1/2 inch. So then you would just go through, I usually just make like little indentations with my finger, put in a seed or 2. Sometimes it's better to do 2 just in case one doesn't germinate. And then just, you could even go through back, grab a little soil from your bin and kind of put it over the top and smooth it in. So once you have all of these cells filled, oops, let me show you this first. You would just line them up all in the tray. And, before you put the lid on, I should say, getting seeds to germinate, probably one of the most important things is to make sure it's staying consistently watered. Now, it all depends on what the temperature is in the greenhouse, how kind of often you'll need to water this. I would say check it every day, if not every other day, just to make sure that the soil is still feeling damp. Now in this setup, because this tray on the bottom does not have any holes, it will hold water. So really what you're trying to do is just lightly water on the top to keep the seed moist that's right underneath the surface. So you shouldn't have to put so much water in there that there's a big puddle sitting in the bottom of this tray. But that's just something to keep an eye on. So anyway, after you have all your seeds started, all your seeds put in the cells, you water it over the top to make sure it's all moist. You set it in the tray. Generally, I would say you would put the lid on. Now there are some, again, this all depends on the temperature in the greenhouse and the temperature that the seed likes to germinate at. I would say in general, you'd want to use this cover. That makes it kind of this humid, moist environment that the seed generally likes. Now I do have this seed germination chart, and this was from Joe Gardner. You can find these online easily. But you'll see some things like spinach that let's say we just planted spinach, likes it between 45 and 75. So this might be something that actually might not like to have the cover on because it might just stay too hot for that seed. Again though, if we're planting, tried to start spinach in the middle of winter and it's staying 60 degrees in the greenhouse, then maybe you do put the lid on to kind of warm it up a little bit. So anyway, I would reference some sort of seed germination guide when you're trying to determine kind of what situation your seed is going to like. Now, as soon as the seeds start to germinate, you want to take the lid off. If you keep the lid on, the seeds are germinating, it's just going to stay too moist, and the seedlings might actually start to kind of rot at the surface of the soil. So you want to just make sure they have adequate airflow. So take the lid off as soon as you see that the seeds are starting to germinate. And then from this point on, you really want to water your seedlings from the bottom up. And let me show you how that works. So you'll notice